الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا الممجد بشيرنا المصدق المصطفى الأمجد محمود الأحمد أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على الظالمين من الأولين والآخرين أما بعد. Awaited Savior of humanity, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, my respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. 2 nights ago, we were speaking about the maqasid al-sharia and the way in which the sharia has goals for us to be able to recognize what Islam wants from us and what Islam hopes to be able to achieve for the human being and for the collective society. And we stated that there is maqasid al-deen and maqasid al-sharia. For example, the maqasid of the deen, the religion, is to bring people out of darkness and into light. The sharia, divided into 3, there is the aqaid, there is the akhlaq, and there is the ahkam. Collectively together, those 3 things seek to be able to break everything that stops you from achieving the fullness of your potential as a human being. We mentioned in the Holy Quran, in Surah Al-A'raf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the mission of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam as being وَيَدَعُ عَنْهُمْ إِسْرَهُمْ وَأَغْلَالَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ. That the Holy Prophet of Islam has been sent primarily to do 2 things: to lift the burdens of society and to break the shackles that hold them back. We will return back to this statement in a minute, inshallah, to try to express this a little further. And then in the last 2 nights, we spoke about some of the ways in which that manifests itself. Amongst the greatest of the maqasid is for a human being to retain his honor and his dignity. Quran says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have honored the children of Adam, the whole of mankind. Being in poverty is one of the ways in which that honor and that dignity is snatched from someone by virtue of the standard of living that they have to be forced into living by. And then yesterday we also spoke about the importance of water and a sustainable environment, because together this would be to ensure that human beings live in safety. We mentioned the Holy Prophet of Islam, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, states, La khayru fil watan, there is no value to living in a place illa ma'al amni was surur, except with aman, safety, sanctuary, and surur, in a state of happiness. And so, if we do not have an environment that is sustainable, that is healthy, that is clean, a human being cannot live in a status of security, peace and happiness. Hence, addressing these 2 issues. Now, tonight inshallah, our topic is taking a different direction altogether within the discussion of the maqasid al-sharia. The maqasid, as we just stated, is there to help the human being reach the fullness of their God-given potential. And everything that blocks you from achieving that, the Sharia advises for you to get rid of. Here, the Quran said, وَيَدَعُ عَنْهُمْ إِسْرَهُمْ وَأَغْلَالَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ. The Prophet sought to lift the burdens of society and to break the shackles that were upon them. What is meant by this? And how does this relate to the maqsad that we are going to talk about this evening, inshallah? The Holy Prophet of Islam came to two very distinct communities. Of course, one is Mecca and one is Medina. These two communities were not the same. Just as the same as Mumbai and New York is not the same. The culture, the experiences, the values, the identities are very different. And as a result, the challenges are also very different. At one level, you will share certain challenges because they are globalized challenges. At another level, you will share challenges because they are human challenges. But at another level, there will be challenges that are unique and specific here, unique and specific elsewhere across the world. Islam has to recognize the global challenges, the universal challenges, the human challenges, but also the specific and relative challenges based upon time and space. As communities develop, evolve, challenges will come, challenges will go. The maqasid al-Sharia must recognize the relativity of these challenges and be in a position to be able to respond to them accordingly. Mecca had its own challenges. For example, in Mecca, the society was primarily made up of two types of belief systems. One was a polytheistic type of belief, and the second was an atheistic type of belief, or maybe an agnostic type of belief. There were those who were polytheists, and there were those that just didn't believe, or didn't really care about any kind of belief system. They just went on in life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Holy Quran in chapter number 15, Surah Al-Hijr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّهُمْ لَفِي سَكْرَتِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. The people of Mecca, they're just wandering blindly in their intoxications. They don't know how to live. They're like in a state of drunkenness. They're just wandering blindly. They don't have full control over their intellect. They don't know where they're going from one place to another. This was the problem within Mecca. In Medina, the challenges were different. They shared the overarching Arabian challenges. They shared the overarching human challenges. But the specific culture in Medina was not one of polytheism, and it was not one of atheism. In fact, it was one of belief in God, belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Medina, there were Jews, Christians, Zoroastrians, and Sabians. It was a very pluralistic society, much like we have here. You go down one road, it's a very Christian road. You go down another road, it's a very Hindu road, and so on and so forth. Similarly, in Medina, the community had all the different religions. It also had the different sects in each religion. Therefore, the community was a very broad community in its thinking. There were rivals, there were challenges, there were debates, there were ideas, and they were all trying to prove and outprove each other at all times. What was the centrality of the problem within Medina? The centrality of the problem was the manipulation of their own texts, their own books. How their own books had been changed so much over a period of time. Stories, lies, ideas, human interpretation had riddled those books, but the main problem was that it was their own ulama that were changing the commentary of their books. Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when speaking about the challenge of Banu Israel, says, الَّذِينَ يَكْتَبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ. The challenge in Medina was that they would write the book with their own hands. And they claim, هَذَا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. This is from God. But this is not from God. Remember on a previous night when we talked about one of the challenges in Islam today, we stated that the Prophet said, be careful, you will follow the practices of the Jews and the Christians shibran bi shibrin, step by step. To the extent that they told you to jump into the hole of an animal, you would do so. That's the extent that you will follow them. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned and said the major problem with the Jews and the Christians was that they would change their own books and the interpretations of their own books. Absolutely, certainly Islam has had that problem since the time of the passing away of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So now, the maqasid al-Sharia has to understand the universal challenges and also understand the relative challenges as well. When a challenge arrived in front of Rasulullah, depending on its priority or depending upon its centrality to the mission of liberation of those people, the Sharia would step forward to meet the particular challenges. In Mecca, for example, one of the challenges as an outcome of shirk was that they used to bury their newborn daughters alive. What were the reasons? For example, they used to hate the idea of sustaining or feeding a girl because it would cost money. A boy, a man would go out and work, be a trader, be a farmer, something. And so he would bring in money. But the woman, the daughter, would not bring in any money, she would cost. So rather than us have to bear the cost, let's just bury her alive. This was one reason, Jahiliyyah, one reason. Second reason as to why they used to bury their daughters alive was because they used to prostitute out their own family members into slavery. The sixth Imam alayhi salam states this, that when men in the family used to gamble, when they lost a gamble, a bet, rather than pay off the bet, they would sell their own female family members into slavery and prostitution to pay off their gambling debts. Jahiliyyah. Another thing that they used to do is that because women were treated so badly in the Arabian society, a man felt embarrassed to bring up a girl into that society, not wanting his own daughter to be treated like that. So what would he do? He would bury his own daughter alive. Now these were challenges. The Sharia and the maqasid, the goal of the Sharia, one of the goals is the right to life. If someone is in hospital and they try to pull the plug, what do you say? There's a right to life. We don't know if he's going to get up. It doesn't matter if he's in a coma. Islam says he has the right to life. When Allah wants to take him, He will take him back into His mercy. We do not kill off a human being. The principle is the right to life. Another right, the right to protection. So now when we see these rights and these goals that Islam wants to be able to achieve, and there were daughters, baby girls being buried alive, the Sharia had to step forward as a priority and say, we will challenge this thinking and we will find ways of helping girls not be looked down upon so badly, not be treated as if they are not human, not to be just used as a commodity or as a slave or as a means of man's satisfaction. All of these issues are prevalent. One of the first things Rasulullah had to do as a priority, because the Sharia said there is the need for the right to life, the right to protection. The Sharia stepped forward to meet that challenge and was now focused as a response to this particular challenge in the Meccan community. Ayat after ayat after ayat were revealed. Hadith after hadith after hadith came from the blessed tongue of the Prophet, trying to explain to these people that a woman is equal to man, that a baby girl is having rights, verse after verse after verse. For example, you know many of them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that the polytheistic girl, when she is buried alive, she will have the right on the day of judgment to ask, بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ? For what reason was I killed? Another verse was revealed. لَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ خَشْيَةً إِمْلَاقٍ نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُكُمْ وَإِيَّاهُمْ. Do not kill your children out of fear of poverty. we give you rizq, we sustain you, and we will sustain them. So what was happening here through revelation? The challenge in society was X, the priority was Y, and so revelation came with Z to make sure it understood and reflected the challenges of society. The goal was right to life, right to protection. Women are being treated badly, children are being treated badly. The Sharia stepped forward and made their protection and rights a priority. Revelation. Then the blessed tongue of the Prophet also came forward and started to talk in order to help liberate the minds of these people who were practicing such jahiliyyah for century after century after century. What did he say? The best of men are those who treat their wives the best. Paradise is under the feet of your mother. And so ayat after ayat, hadith after hadith came forward in the hope that people would awaken to what they were doing and the practices that they were doing. And then only once this practice was removed and seriously stopped could now the Quran move on to another issue and another set of verses could be revealed, moving on to a different challenge within society in accordance with the priorities that the Sharia set forward. The Quran said, وَيَذَعُ عَنْهُمْ إِسْرَهُمْ وَأَخْلَالَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ. The Sharia wanted to lift the burdens off you and to break the shackles that were upon you. What were these burdens? The burdens were the societal practices. Sorry, the burdens were the religious practices that they had, and the breaking the shackles was the societal practices that they had. So when it came to lifting the burdens, the society was practicing certain things. Nothing to do with religion, but they were practicing certain things. They were burying their daughters alive. They would charge you interest at 100%, at 250%, at 500%, so that they could steal your business or steal your house. This was a societal practice. The Prophet came to lift those burdens of society. And then he came to break the shackles of those people. And all those different practices that held them back in their thinking and in their religion, that would stop them from being able to achieve the practices that they were achieving. If you've understood this as an introduction, this evening inshallah, our discussion in light of, number one, the maqsad of right to life. Number two, the maqsad of right to protection. And number three, if you remember, one of the 5 major maqasid in the Sunni opinion is right to protect your aql. Based upon these 3, our discussion this evening inshallah is to look at the necessity to protect our women and children, especially in street and society and online. Because today, these 2 sources are amongst the biggest challenges that face a healthy society, a harmonious, balanced society. And if these 2 things are not done, then we would be no different to the people of Jahiliyyah at the time of revelation, who did not protect their women and children, but allowed women and children to be abused, to be manipulated, and ultimately to be hurt and to be killed. Across the world there are various challenges. And primarily it is reliant upon what is known as patriarchy. The idea inherently that man is either better than woman or man knows better than woman. And as a result, because of this idea, sometimes which is justified through religion, sometimes is justified through society, manifests itself whereby man feels that he can do or take what he wants from women and children. This is completely antithetical, opposite to the goal of Islam, which is right to life, right to protect, and right to protect the intellect. What we're finding in the world, for example, today, is rape is on the increase, sexual abuse is on the increase, and also when it comes to sisters across the world, as we mentioned on a previous night, the number of attacks upon women, Shia and Muslim women in the world is increasing because of hatred towards Muslims and Islamophobia, being afraid of what Islam is and what it isn't. For example, in the West, there has been an increase in attacks on the street of our sisters. Attacking, pulling off hijab, beating up, attacking with weapons, and even throwing acid upon them. Now imagine if someone as brave and as a leader like Rasulullah or Amir al-Mu'mineen or Abu Fadl Abbas salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'een were present in a time like this, in an environment like this, how do you think they would take this issue? Would they take it seriously or would they not take it seriously? Here in India, as I'm sure everybody here knows, one of the biggest challenges, according to governmental statistics and international statistics, is the issue of rape of women and sexual abuse of children. Now this needs to be understood that this is prevalent within the country today. And it doesn't matter whether it happens or doesn't happen in our community, we must help humanity move from dhulumat ila nur. That is our job. If we're implementing deen properly, then we would recognize that this is a challenge. If we're implementing sharia properly, which is to help all of humanity to the right of life, to the right of protection, and the right of the protection of aql, then we would be as concerned whether it happens within our community or external to our community. And there is no denying that here and in other places around the world, there are specific challenges when it comes to the honor of women, the protection of women, the honor of children, and the protection of children. One of the greatest challenges is the sexualization of women and children and the portrayal of them in society today. Walk down any road, 9 out of 10 adverts are what? A woman, dressed scantily. Why? Why has man come to accept these things as norm within society? Why has woman come to accept that this is the norm within society? Why would any woman want to degrade her own self and pose in a way in which she is looked upon as nothing more than just meat for the pleasure of a man's eye? But this is the society that we are unfortunately growing up into. And if the Muslim is not going to protect a woman, then who is going to protect a woman? If we are the ones, this is important, if we are the ones who cried over the protection of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, and cry over the protection of Lady Sakina alayhi salam, then it is embarrassing for you and I to not care about the protection of women and children elsewhere. How can it be? How can it be that I actually cry that the children of Hussein alayhi salam were slapped and attacked and paraded and they tried to sell them into slavery? The same things and worse that was happening in Jahiliyyah. In Jahiliyyah, what would they do? They would bury a daughter alive. At the time of Yazid, they would shoot a 3-pronged arrow into the neck of a 6-month-old baby. Jahiliyyah, but worse. When we see this in today's society, it is impossible for the Shia and for the Muslim, but especially the Shia, who has such love for Zahra alayhi salam, but weeps that she was beaten, to allow our own sisters, wives, mothers to be beaten. It is abhorrent to think that we cry over Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam and then do nothing when there is a culture of rape and sexualization in the community. It is embarrassing to cry over the child who was slapped in the tents, and then to allow similar abuses to take place either within our family or outside our family. Which sakina are you crying over? Why do you bother crying? If you are the man that cries over Fatima and then goes and hits your own wife. Why are you crying over Zainab if you are the man that cries and then goes and hits your own child? I genuinely don't understand it. And it happens constantly within our societies. And we allow it to happen in other societies. And so this issue of protection is an urgent issue when it comes to the maqasid and the reality of the practices of Karbala into our own lives. Some statistics for you and I to be able to ponder over, for those who may not know and sadly may not be aware of the types of things that happen. In the top 10 countries of the world, 6 of them are in Europe that have the worst problems for rape of women and children. None of them are in majority Muslim countries or Middle Eastern countries, which may suggest that there is an intrinsic relationship between wearing hijab and protection from rape and protection from abuse. Not to say it doesn't happen in Muslim countries. It does, most certainly. But the statistics that are found by government is that in the top 10, 6 of the 10 come from Europe. The 4th worst country in the world for rape of women and sexual abuse of children is India. 4th worst in the world, according to government statistics. Last year, 53% of all children interviewed by the government claimed to have been sexually abused at some time in their life. 53%, more than half. Brothers, please understand this. If I divided half of you now in the room and said, at some point in your childhood, you would be abused, how would you feel? 50% of all children pointed to someone they knew being the abuser. Someone in their family, someone in their friend circle. 90% of all rapes happen within the house, which is supposed to be a protected environment. If you can't feel protected at home, if you're going to be beaten up by your husband at home, if you're going to be beaten up by your father at home, if you're going to be abused by your uncle or grandfather at home, then where are you going to be safe in this world? And therefore, it is urgent that we join these campaigns to help, where possible, and to educate our brothers and our men, internal to the community and external to the community, about these sorts of things happening, to ensure that they don't happen anymore. There are other types of protections that need to happen for children. And we're going to talk about these now, inshallah, and try to understand them primarily from the challenges that are faced in the world of being online. This little device, or the phone, has revolutionized our lives. Be it communication, be it access to knowledge, in every way, shape or form, this little device has revolutionized our world. But it is also revolutionizing our children's world as well. Because as technology advances, they are introduced to more challenges that they are unsuspecting of, and not realizing how easy it is to fall into those traps and those challenges of the world of the internet, the world online, the world of the app, the world of the phone. A child is so innocent. One of the maqasid is to break all the shackles upon a child, to help them achieve the fullness of their potential, and to protect their innocence and their intellect. You will remember the very famous hadith of our second Imam, Jaffer Ladak, second Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. Imam alayhi salam says beautifully, a child, a youth, is like a piece of soil. That which you plant onto it will grow from it. But the more elder we get, the more difficult it is to learn new things. And so a child who is opened up to something, when they see something, they don't know whether this is right or whether this is wrong, whether this is what the world should or shouldn't be. Often they just imbibe that thing. They are sponges. And it is only much later, when the intellect begins to grow, when education starts to come, that they begin to think about these things for themselves. But often enough, it's already too late, because this is imprinted on their personality, on their psyche, and the development of their brains. I was teaching a madrasa class in London, and this was maybe a year or a year and a half ago, no more than that. The age category I was teaching was about 13 and 14 years old, brothers and sisters. And as part of the discussion, we asked them a question. What do you want to be when you grow up? It's a normal question that we ask, isn't it? What do you want to be when you grow up? As an FYI, that's not a good question to ask. Don't ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Ask them a different question. Ask them, what would you like to see different in the world? What changes would you like to bring to the world? And when they say A, B, and C, that's when you ask them the question, well, what would you like to be when you grow up? And you hope that there is a relationship between saying, I have seen a world that has poverty, that has nuclear arms, that has a lack of authors. What do you want to be? I want to be something that helps in this way. Anyway, we asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Remember, these are our boys, our sisters, our community, not an external community, ours. What do you want to be when you grow up? Some of the brothers, Allah bless them, answered lovely answers, typical answers that you might get. I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a policeman, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor, mashallah, alhamdulillah. One of the brothers said, I want to be a YouTube internet star. I said, what do you mean? He says, you know, you get on YouTube these people, they just make videos all day joking around. They have millions and millions of subscribers. They make millions and millions of pounds in advertising revenue. This is what I want to do when I grow up. What do you mean? He said, let me show you. Pulls out his phone. Shows me on YouTube. There is some guy, I don't even remember his name, and I wouldn't even tell you if I did. Some guy, young kid, he spends all his time playing video games and just doing commentary about the games. Just joking, talking to the screen, talking to the camera. He has several million subscribers, and so he has millions of revenue coming in from advertisers. And our boy wants to be that when he grows up. MashaAllah. Great. Inshallah you're successful. But maybe there's something else to life. Let's talk about it. Is this all you want to do in your life? Yes. Now just think about this for a second. This is a young brother from our community who comes to madrasa every week, who comes on Thursday night majlis, who comes to every makhsus occasion, goes on ziyarah, goes on julus, participates in the ma'tam. But his idea is, he just wants to spend his time making videos all day long. Now maybe he probably will grow up and think a little bit different, grow up to be something different. But what you expose a child to, they're very innocent and they imbibe it into themselves. Now, listen to the answer from one of the sisters. If you thought that first answer was bad, this one will shock you. And remember, all about what they're exposed to in the home. What we, as parents, as brothers, as elders give to them, that will shape their thinking. Young sister, 13, 14 years old, what would you like to become when you grow up? She said, now you may not know this term because it's a British term, I'll explain it. She said, I want to become a famous wag. A wag is a wife and a girlfriend of a famous sports player. And she was dead serious that that was her goal in life. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a wag, a wife or a girlfriend of a famous footballer. I asked why. She responded and said, because I want to go out to all the best restaurants. I want to wear the most beautiful dresses. I want the paparazzi to take my photo. I want to go to all the best film festivals. This is what I want from my life. A 14-year-old girl in the madrasa who wears hijab, who comes every single week, who cries over the gham, who knows the stories. But even then, because there is such a dichotomy as to what she's exposed to at home, what she's given at home, even though she knows all of these stories about Bibi Zainab, Bibi Fatima, Bibi Sakina, and, it hasn't really impacted. Her goal is to be a famous wife or girlfriend of someone, so she can just go to famous restaurants in the evening. How does this happen to us? It happens because of what we expose our children to. And even if it happens to 1 in 10, 1 in 50, we have to understand that when we give our children access to these phones, access to this internet, we are leading them into a world which is very unsecure. And that requires, as parents, to be aware, to put in the right parental locks, to make sure that they cannot download certain things, to make sure that they cannot view certain things, to make sure that you look at the history of what they're looking at, to make sure that you review the conversations that they are having, to make sure that you regularly talk to them about the challenges that are coming to them relative to the phone, relative to the iPad, relative to the laptop. Believe me, if you stay outside and you try to be too friendly, pally, believe me, there will be youth amongst us that are lost, that fall into these big traps and challenges that we have in front of us. Now here, I want to address especially some of my youth, my young brothers and young sisters, to talk to them about some of the challenges that are present online, present on the phones, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to talk about 3 in particular. The first one is relationships. When you have access to a phone, and you have access to Facebook, you have access to WhatsApp, and you have access to Instagram, and you have access to Twitter, it is very likely that you are going to be able to come across the opposite gender. They're half the other planet. It's very likely that if you're a boy, at some point you're going to come across a girl. And if you're a girl, it's likely at some point you're going to come across a boy that is trying to talk to you. Be mature. Realize that unless they are approaching your father or your mother for the hand in marriage, the likelihood is they are looking for something else. And you must be very vigilant of this and very aware of this. And the reality is that even our young brothers and sisters are getting caught up in this. Another story for you. I had the honor of visiting an American community, our own Khoja, Shia, Ibn Sharia community. And I won't say which one, because it's not fair, because then you'll start to judge that particular community. And you'll say, oh, I have an uncle in that community. Maybe it was him and their family. No, one second. But we were asked to do a session with the youth from the ages of 12 to 15, specifically about these online challenges. With the youth only about these challenges, brothers only. And I'm going to cut the story short, and I'm going to tell you that half those brothers, aged between 12 and 15, had girlfriends. And half of that number, 1/4, had girlfriends from within the community. So the ladies on the other side, the young girls on the other side, were communicating with the brothers through their phones, and it was going on. Now, I'm not saying it's happening here, I don't know, but I'm saying be careful of it. I'm saying the reality is it happens. And only good parenting and bringing up children with the right understanding of the challenges and the need to protect them, to give them their rights of protection, will you and I be able to overcome these challenges. Second issue I want to mention online. When you download these apps and these games, you will often see that these apps are free. Or if they're not free, they're very cheap. And the reason why they are free or very cheap is because they have advertising attached to it. So when you open up the app, you won't be able to stop it for the first 5 seconds or 10 seconds. An advert will come up, inciting you, enticing you to come play some game, purchase something, go somewhere. This is all known. The majority of these apps are related to things like gambling. The idea is that they will advertise, the gambling websites, the gambling apps will entice you to go onto their website. When you reach their website, they will give you what is known as free money. So what they will say is, why don't you have, I'm just picking a number, why don't you have £20 free play? Roll the roulette wheel, play the cards, see if you're any good. It's free money, you've got nothing to lose. So what happens is, sometimes our youth go on, they have free roll, they have free games. Now remember, this is a business. What did we say yesterday? They don't care about you. If they make you go broke, what difference does it make to these gambling websites? They've taken your money. You think they care about you? You think they care about children? You think they care about our youth? No. So what the app does, because this is made by a computer programmer who is paid to bring you in, to sucker you in, when you get this free money, the computer will play you so that you win 7 times out of 10. What will happen is, the cards that are dealt to you will be high cards. 7 out of 10 times, which will do 2 things. One, it will make you think, oh, I'm getting good cards. I'm not lucky, I'm always getting good cards. 2, it will make you play the hand all the way to the end, so you're more engaged. And because you have higher cards, you are more likely to win against the computer. But it's the computer, so the computer is designed to lose. So it makes you think that you're a good gambler. Brother, I don't mean to be rude, you're a terrible gambler. And even if you were a good gambler, it's haram. And a waste of your time and a waste of your money. But you're a terrible gambler. You're going to lose anyway. So now, you think, I made this £20 into £88. I'm getting loads of high cards. I'm really good. It says now, if I buy real money, it will give me the same amount that I buy for free money, in real money. So now I'll buy £20 for real money, and it will give me £20. I'm now on £40. What will happen? You won't be very good. But you'll be thinking, but I always got those high cards, I always seem to win, I always used to go to the end, I always used to get ace and king. Why am I not getting it down? And you will go back, and you will go back, and you will go back. You have to understand how these apps work, what they are trying to do to you. Second area of protection online is not to be suckered in by these things. Use your intellect, use your rationality, think about what you're doing. Don't get into any of these games. Don't allow your friends to tell you, let's play these games. Don't allow your school friends, your cousins, whatever, to say, come join me on these games. Because that peer pressure is one of the most difficult things for anyone to be able to overcome. The third and last thing I want to warn parents and youth about, protect our women, protect our children, is types of apps and types of games that are dangerous for the human health. Here in India, there was Ahsant, both of you know about it, a game that became a craze across the world that took lives here. What was it called? Ahsantum, Blue Whale. Now this shows that these things are there and you know about it. It's international. This game, for those of you who don't know about it, we need to explain, there are these types of games that are so dangerous that entice children to act in a certain way that will eventually ask them to do different challenges, harder and harder, more dangerous and more dangerous, until the last challenge is about death. So what will happen is you'll start off with a simple, silly challenge. The child is innocent, he doesn't know. Goes to the next challenge, gets to the next challenge. This forms an addiction. Everyone else is playing it. You receive rewards, you receive points. And eventually, one of these games in Blue Whale, the 50th challenge was, do you know what? Either you had to murder someone or you had to take your own life. And if you choose to do one of those two things, you have to film it so it's going out live to the world. Children across the world died because of this game. Can you imagine that there are people so sick in the mind that would create this game? But they exist. And so we have to be aware that these exploitations of women, these exploitations of children, in all different forms are prevalent when it comes to something as simple as this phone, as simple as this iPad, as simple as this laptop in front of us. Brothers and sisters, the maqasid is the right to life. We have to protect people's life. The right to protection in their life. And the right to protect their intellect. This doesn't just extend to our own community, everybody outside, external and internal. And if you see in your society there is a particular type of challenge, it is upon us to be able to help that challenge from being overcome within society. Be part of those movements. Be part of those rallies. Speak out. Demand legislation. Demand protection. Demand that our young brothers and sisters are protected like they were your own children deserve to be protected. Because this is what the Holy Prophet of Islam, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, stood for. As Imam Ali alayhi salam is on his deathbed, people are entering into the house to bid him farewell, to ask him one last question. The Imam gives his wasiyyah. He starts to say, upon you is the rights of the orphans. Upon you is the Hajj. Upon you is the recitation of Quran. And then it comes to the time where he now has to give imamat over to Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. He calls all of his family together and he places all of their hands in the hand of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, saying, he is your Imam after you. But there is one whose hand is not in the hand of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Abu Fadl begins to cry and say, am I not your son? Am I not supposed to be given into the hand of the Imam after your father? And he calls the hand of Abbas and places it into the hand of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and says, Abbas, you were born with the responsibility of protecting Hussein and the family of Hussein. Do not leave him at any time. According to our Dhakirin, Abbas alayhi salam asks for permission. Sayyida Zainab salamullahi alayha hears this permission being sought, and when the permission is given, she comes out and looks into the eyes of her brother and says, "Oh brother, do you remember on the deathbed of our father Ali, when he began to describe all the tragedies that would take place on the 10th and the 11th of Muharram, do you remember that he said there would come a time when I would be captive? Do you remember a time when he said that I would be chained, paraded from city to city, that they would hurl stones at me, that they would throw boiling water at me? Oh Abbas, I never thought that this would happen. I never understood how this would happen whilst you were here to protect me. But now I see you entering into the battlefield. Now I realize this day has truly come true." Abbas alayhi salam was the protector of Zainab. Abbas alayhi salam was the protector of Sakina. Abbas alayhi salam was the protector of Onin Muhammad. Become Abbas, brothers. Become Abbas in the streets. Become Abbas and protect the women and children of your society. On the night of Ashura, the ladies were preparing their children for martyrdom. I am asking you, fathers, I am asking you, mothers, how do you prepare your own child to enter into an army, to enter into a field where are 30,000 swords baying for the blood of your children? But each of the mothers would say to their sons, "Do not allow me to be embarrassed in front of Fatima on the day of judgment. All of you must give your life before Hussein gives his life. I do not allow any of you." But the foremost of all of those mothers telling her children that was Zainab alayhi salam. It was Zainab telling Onin Muhammad, "You must be the first of the children to go, because I can only face my mother Fatima if your bodies are lying for the sake of Hussein." This is a mother. But I tell you, brothers and sisters, these are mothers today in Iraq saying the same thing. There are mothers today saying the same thing in Bahrain. There are mothers today saying the same thing in Palestine. There are mothers today saying the same thing in Yemen. Zainab said to Onin Muhammad, "Go and don't come back. I do not want to see you back here." And there are mothers today saying the same things against Al Saud, against Banu Israel, saying to them, "Don't return." These are the champions of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Sayyidah Zainab is sitting with her children and preparing them for tomorrow. The afternoon comes, each of the companions have gone, Akbar has gone. Zainab now comes and says, "Oh Aba Abdullah, I come to you with a request that you must not deny, because I am your sister and I know my rights upon you, and I know what our mother Fatima would want from me in this moment. Oh sister, what is it that you are asking from me? Here are my sons Onin Muhammad. My husband has told me to tell you that they are to go as well. How does the Imam refuse his blessed sister Zainab? At this moment the tents realize what is about to happen. Zainab is about to give her sacrifices. I tell you, at that moment Fatima is standing outside those tents, so proud. At this moment, only Muhammad come into the arms of Abu Abdullah and they cry, knowing that the next time they will meet will be on the battlefield when both of these children are torn to pieces. He bids them farewell, and as they enter into the battlefield, it is said that they fight side by side, either side by side or back to back. And every time the enemies would come, these two brothers would be next to each other fighting and killing men of the enemies. They would call out towards their mother, Zainab, have you seen us? Mother, have you seen us? Have we made you proud yet? Are you watching what we are doing for our uncle Abu Abdullah? But the enemies realized that there was no way to kill Own and Muhammad unless they separated these two young children. It is said that they went and they tried to separate by pushing between them. Eventually these two brothers are separated from each other. You can imagine that when these two brothers are separated, their own must be calling out, Muhammad, are you okay? Keep calling so I can hear what is happening to you. You can imagine Muhammad is calling out, oh my brother, I am okay. Look after yourself, because they are surrounding you and they are surrounding me. They begin to strike Own Muhammad with everything that they have. They will strike them with swords, they will strike them with spears, they will strike them with arrows. How do these people kill a 10 and 12-year-old boy, or a 10 and an 8-year-old boy? How do these evil men do it? They strike at Own and Muhammad. It is said that both of them fall towards the floor. They call out to Abu Abdullah, accept our salutation. Abu Abdullah runs into the battlefield. It is said that he goes towards Own and Muhammad, but they have not passed away. It is said that inside the tent there is Sayyidah Zainab. She is not crying. She is not calling out to Allah. She is not calling out Wa'awna. She is not calling out Wa Muhammadah. Zainab is in sajda, thanking Allah for what she has been able to give in the way of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. She does not cry for her children at all. Zainab will cry for Akbar. Zainab will cry for Qasim. Zainab will cry for Ruqayya. Zainab will cry for Azkhar. But Zainab will not cry for Own Muhammad. When she returns back to the city of Medina, it is said that she reaches back and she meets her husband for the first time. They look at each other. What does a mother say towards her husband? What does a husband say towards the mother? She goes back in towards her house. It is said that when her husband saw her, when her husband saw Zainab, he did not even recognize what Zainab looked like, because her back had become bent, her hair had changed color, she did not look the same. He walks past and does not see that this is Zainab, but Zainab walks into the house. Who is this lady walking into the house? She goes into the house. It is said by al-Dhakirin, she sees two small sajjada. These were the sajjada. This was the musalla of Own and Muhammad that these 10 and 8-year-old children would recite their prayers on. She looks towards this two sajjada, and this is when her heart breaks for Own and Muhammad. She breaks down, she falls towards the ground. This is the first time she calls out, Assalamu alaikum ya Own and Muhammad. My greetings to you. You have made Zainab proud for what you have done on the 10th of Muharram. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Please raise your hands. Let us join each other in dua. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the appearance of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, to allow us to be alongside him at all times in our life and in our death. If we are to pass away from this world before his coming, raise us from our graves so that we partake in the victories of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. We ask you, Ya Allah, there are many people around the world going through such desperate times, those people in the state of war, oppression, poverty, hopelessness, disease, disaster, manipulation. Ya Allah, Grant them more safety, security and victory for the sake of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. We ask you, Allah, help us to understand the movement of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Help us to bring up children like Awn and Muhammad, inshaAllah. Grant us their intercession fi dunya wal akhirah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, wa salli ya Rabbi ala Muhammad wa alihi al-tahirin. For the love of Awn and Muhammad, Sayyidah Zainab, Sayyidah Kulthum, let us recite one loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.